Welcome back to Bizmodified. This is the final episode in our data privacy series. Today, we're going to be tackling a very important question. Who owns our data? Ownership of data is complex. In South Africa, Papaya gives rights to data subjects, meaning you and me. With that, we can access our data, request deletion of our data, as well as make corrections to our data. I'm joined today by Lisa Marie and Anna Marie, our panel of experts. Lisa Marie, if I can pose this to you, do we really own our data?
It's important to understand, Ashley, that it is possible to own digitized personal information, but it's not necessarily owned by the person to which it relates. Data subjects remember this includes legal persons, must assert their ownership of personal information by keeping control of it with the intention of owning it.
I don't understand. So it's my information, but it can be owned by another party.
That's correct. That's the reason why I said specifically digitized, but because as soon as you digitize a memory or a aspect of your personal information, it becomes a new creation, which someone can assert ownership over because it doesn't belong to someone as yet. So it's important for you to assert that ownership by controlling it with the intention. And that's why they even advise companies to publicize their ownership of certain information which they create.
Yeah, that makes sense. When I think about, there was a case a couple of years ago between Liberty and Discovery, where Liberty cleverly / opportunistically used the vitality status of people that have life insurance with them to give them discounts, and Discovery took them to court about it, saying, it's their information, they can't be used. And the court sided with Liberty because the members' vitality status is their own, and they chose to share that with Liberty to gain some type of advantage. So, but they had to assert it. I think that's the point.
Yes, remember, if you choose to make use of ChatGPT or an AI model to do something to perhaps create your CV for you for free, and you input all of your personal information to enable it to do that, and you don't assert to say, this remains my information, this is how I want to deal with it, this is how I want to control it, you have given it away to someone else to do with it what they want to. Of course, you'll still have protection of privacy rights, but your ownership of your personal information that you have shared in that way without asserting your ownership, it's been given over to someone else who then becomes the owner.
Perfect. No, interesting. Here we're seeing that there is a service, right, that is making people, give these third parties access to our data. But let's take it into a more covert, setting. We've got data breaches, we've got leaks, we've got hacking, you've got third parties, right? Anna Marie, if you could maybe just give me your thoughts, or give the South African viewers your thoughts around data breaches.
Yeah, I mean, a couple of years ago, the stats were that South Africa was one of the top 10 countries that encounter hacks, It's become daily news almost. And the problem is typically there are far more people that are trying to hack and breach and steal information than the white hats and the people within the companies trying to protect that information. You get cartels involved, you get foreign states trying to hack. It's become its own business and its own cash flow, etc. So, and the examples in South Africa, you've had SAA, SAPS, TransUnion, and we talk a lot about privacy here, but sensitive files also get stolen. Like Eastern Platinum had a file share of sensitive information shared. So many companies that, I don't know, dig things out of the ground or build things with mortar think Poppy isn't that important for them except for their personnel files. But if you look at the security safeguards that Poppy requires, it's important for all companies that value data. So breaches are going to happen. And I think if a breach happens, the speed at which the company responds to it is really important. And not only speed in terms of containment of the breach, but speed in which they engage with their clients, how they keep their clients informed, how they keep their clients up to date, what was breached, what are they doing, etc. Because that can actually be turned around, a crisis can be turned around to create some form of greater trust between clients, etc., and the companies that lost their information. But I think it also still boils down to that investments in privacy and security is a grudge purchase. So it is underinvested in. And until companies realize the value of information and data as assets, it will remain so. Because if you understand that data is an asset, you'll invest money in protecting it.
Thank you for those nuggets, Anna Marie, right? So beyond breaches, right, we can see that we're outnumbered. Even at an international scale, we're seeing states being perpetrators of data breaches, right? So I think the South African viewers out there or the international community will be quite interested in understanding, how people access our data.
I have to just put the proviso out there. When I say these things, sometimes I listen to myself and think this has to be like sci-fi, or a good spy novel. But it is really so mundane that it's just the criminals have realized that data is an asset before some companies have realized that it comes down to money and what data is worth. So again, people very often is your biggest threat. And what we're finding now is that in the absence of AI policies, for instance, people are loading up Excel spreadsheet with customer data into chat or into Grok to help them with number crunching. So that is an absolute breach. You've pushed it into the interweb ether. And people are not doing it because they're malicious. They're just doing it because the companies haven't set down the policies, and they haven't done the proper education, data literacy, AI education to say you can't put it on the public domain of a large language model. So companies need to first decide what are their AI of choice, and control the instance of that AI within their company. It's like maybe a Copilot, Microsoft Shop, or we're going to buy licenses for chat, and tell people where and when they can use it. Because they are going to use it, so make it possible for them to do so within the controls of the company policies.
Yes, and in terms of the POPI Act as well,
Sure.
Remember the companies are bound to the POPI Act, and if any of that occurs outside of the conditions for lawful processing, which, some of the instances that you've mentioned now certainly are in breach of the openness principle of advising your client that you are going to use ChatGPT or AI to crunch some of the numbers or to sort some of the data. You have to be open about it. There has to be consent. So, and remember also in terms of POPIA, one of the principles or one of the conditions for lawful processing is to do a risk assessment. A security risk assessment of the foreseeable internal as well as external risks. And the moment your staff does something that does not fall within that, the company is in breach and at risk of serious penalties.
I see some of the news companies like News 24, if they do a summary of the international events, they say this was prepared by token AI.
Yeah, I think it's just ethically correct to advise your client if you are going to. It's not just ethically correct, it's required in terms of the Act, in terms of openness again, to say, I am going to use a large language model to process some of your data. And for instance, in my profession, if you are going to use ChatGPT or large language model to assist you in doing legal work, and it takes you a shorter time than it would have if you had done it yourself or hadn't made use of that, then you should advise your client and reduce your fees accordingly.
Are we going to look forward to reduce legal fees in future?
Perfect. No, this is quite exciting stuff, right? I think the big corporates are in for a type of an evolution, right? They might need to embark on a watertight AI strategy going forward. Okay, so let's say hypothetically, in the event that someone owns your personal information, right? Does this mean that you have no rights at all? And what can you do, to protect yourself from a legal side of things?
The good news is in a clash between the ownership rights of someone else who happens to own your personal information, and the protections which the POPI Act provides you in terms of privacy. The POPI Act takes precedence, and you can still rely on that to protect your privacy.
Perfect. Okay. Any closing thoughts on your side, Anne-Marie?
Yeah, I think you said it, Ashley. There's a lot of AI strategy, deliberate AI strategy work that's required in companies. Because with any big revolution, unless you pause and think and plan around it, the revolution starts owning you. I mean, it's like a wave that crashes over you and you just get swept away with it. So, leadership in companies have to be deliberate about this is how we're going to approach the AI strategy. This is what we will and won't do. These are our policies. These are our governance modules. So that when you go further and implement, some of these things, everybody's clear on the rules. It's not just happening as a little project. It becomes part of the strategy. So I think that's important. And as I said before, weaved into that is spend proper money on securing data and keeping it private, applying all of the things that Lisa Marie said. It costs a bit of money, but it's really good for companies that get it right.
Perfect. Thank you for that. All right. Thank you for joining us on this series. And in closing, your data is valuable. You understanding your rights is a step closer in you protecting it.